I just wanted to get on here real quick and tell you about my conversation with Dad. God, I'm crying. It went better than expected, I guess I'll say. He called and I just decided I was just going to listen and hear him out and not say anything. And he just called and, asked questions and said how sorry he was about Yuri and, asked if I could talk about it or if it was too hard. And I was like, yeah, I can talk about it. And so he asked about how he met Rachel and just like about how long they'd been married, stuff like that. And then he just said he was so sorry. He was like, I can't imagine, going through that. And how are you guys doing? Like, he asked about Grace and, about, what we're all doing and stuff, like what we do for work and where we live and stuff like that. And I told him we're moving. And anyway, he just asked questions, basically like checking in. And then he said how sorry he was. And I was like, and then I asked him what he was doing because he was, asking me about work and stuff like that. So he was like, well, I'm not working anymore. And I was like, yeah, I heard you retired. What are you doing now to fill your time? And he's like, oh, and that's when he got like all animated and was like, oh, I'm still on this like council and for the planning or something. And anyway, he's like, but yeah, I have all this time on my hands. And so I'm just doing a lot more yard work and exercising and reading books. And I just have a lot of time on my hands. And I was like, okay, well, great. I was like, well, let me ask you then, why couldn't you come? I'm like, with all that time on your hands, why couldn't you come to Yuri's funeral? And he was like, well, it wasn't that I couldn't. He's like, I could have. And I was like, well, then why did you choose not to? And he was like, well, I feel bad about that. He's like, basically, he's like, I thought that the thing at Rachel's parents' house, I thought it was just for immediate family, like your family and her family. I didn't think that anybody else beyond that was invited. And I was like, but I invited you. Like, I invited you. If you're invited, you're invited. And, I said that, and he was like, well, yeah, but it was only like, a week's notice or it was like 5 days notice or something was what he said. And I'm like, we were only out there for two weeks now. Or 3 weeks. I can't remember. I'm like, it's not like we planned this. We didn't plan it. We were out there visiting for just like a couple of weeks, 2 weeks. So we didn't have a lot of time to give everybody notice. Like I think I gave him 5 days notice. And, I'm like, you got an invitation. I told you where it was. It's not like you had to fly somewhere to get there, and he's like, well, I know, but I just thought it was going to be your family and her family. And I thought that would have been awkward if I was there. And he's like, plus I thought it was going to be a celebration of life where everybody was sharing stories about him. And he's like, and like you pointed out, I didn't really know Yuri, so I didn't have anything to share. I don't have memories with him. And he's like, so I just thought that would have been awkward for me not to have a memory to share. And I was like, okay, I get that. I'm like, but then we had the military ceremony for him, and I invited you to that, and that was not at anybody's house. It was a ceremony, and you couldn't even come to that. And he was like, well, I know. He's like, I should have been there and I regret that. And I'm sorry. He's like, I wish I had been there. He's like, I should have gone. But he's like, tell me, when have you guys invited me to anything before that? When have you guys reached out and tried to see me? When have you, he's like, I never even know, when you guys are in town or what you're doing. And I was like, well, yeah, because then, when we have before, I'm like, the last time that we saw you, the last time we ever got together was when we had lunch in Midway. I'm like, I thought it was a good visit. I thought it was fine. And then we find out later it wasn't, and you're mad about something, and it always seems to go that way. So yeah, we stopped reaching out. I'm sorry. And I'm like, but if there's ever a time to get over that stuff, to get over grudges and hurt feelings or whatever, it's when you lose somebody, when you lose a family member, that's the time you show up. Like, that is a reason to come together and make amends and repair relationships. That's the time to do it. And I invited you. You know, it's not like I just mentioned it in passing and was like, well, you can come if you want. I invited you. I sent you the information and said, come to this thing. Here's another one. Come to this thing. I'm like, you said no twice. And he was like, I know, and I regret that, and, you know, whatever. He's like, I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. He's like, I should have been there. I wish I could have been there to hug you and try to give you some comfort. He's like, because I do care. He's like, I wish. He was like, I do care about you guys. And he's like, I screwed up. I should have been there. He's like, you could tell he was trying to find the words. Like, he didn't know what to say because he didn't really have a good excuse. It was just, yeah, I should have been there. And, you know, I was like, I told him, I'm like, dude, my heart was so tender and so soft. I was so willing to forgive anything because, you know, I'm like, if I've learned anything, it's that life is too short to be mad at the people that you care about and to hold grudges over petty things. You know, I'm like, that was the time to get together and talk. And he was like, well, I mean, I texted you and I told you I wanted to talk to you and George. And I was like, okay, but we were busy taking care of his affairs, trying to wrap our heads around this. You know, we were... And he's like, yeah, he's like, I guess it was a bad time to just talk. And I was like, and I didn't want to fight with you. That's what he said. He's like, oh, that was another reason. He's like, well, I didn't go to Rachel's because I thought me and you would wind up in a fight. And I'm like, you think I'm going to fight with you at my son's funeral? No. Like, that, the only thing I was focused on in that moment was him. And how much I loved him and just trying to wrap my head around this devastation that I just got hit with, you know? And, I told him, I'm like, it just doesn't seem like you care at all about us. You haven't shown interest in my kids at all. You don't know them at all. And I'm like, and he was so worth knowing. He was such a light. And he was like, he's like, I know, I'm sure he was worth knowing. And he's like, and I'm sorry that I didn't get to know him. And I was like, look, I want to start fresh. And I don't want to hold on to past grievances. I don't want that. I'm telling you now, I'm not going to fight with you about that stuff. And he was like, yeah, he's like, I want to start over. He's like, I want to be involved in your guys' lives. And like, I told him we were moving back to Utah or Idaho, wherever, because we want to be close to family. I'm like, this has taught me that relationships are what matter. Family is what matters. I don't care about all the crap that happened before. I'm like, I feel bad that I've missed out on, you know, my nephews growing up. Like, I've been around your kids, but not as much as I would have liked to. I would love to be closer to them. And so I need to make the effort, you know, I need to try. They're not going to do it, really, you know, maybe when they get older, but I'm like, they're not going to want to if I don't try. And so I'm like, you have to make the effort. You have to act like you care for people to want to reciprocate. And he was like, well, I do care. I want you to know that. And he's like, I'm just so sorry. He's like, I can't imagine what you guys are feeling. And he's like, I'm just so glad that none of you did that. He's like, I don't know how I would have handled that if I had lost any of you guys that way. And anyway, he just said he was sorry, and I told him thank you. I appreciate him saying that, and I appreciate him calling. And then he was like, you know, and I want you to know I love you. And so I told him I loved him back. And that was that, basically. But I did tell him, I'm like, it was a big deal for me to invite you, you know? I'm like, I want you to know that it was a big deal because you haven't been involved in our lives. I'm like, but this was an earth-shattering, life-changing event for me. It changed things for me, which is why I invited you. I thought it was important for you to be there. And I'm like, and you didn't come. Like, and he just, you know, I could tell he felt like an idiot and he didn't know what to say. You know, anyway,